Hello everyone. Today we'll talk about different types of capital structure theories. In the last video, we have discussed about the capital structure theories. What are capital structure theories and what are the general assumptions related to them? Initially, I'll start with the revision of what we have done in the previous class. So starting with the capital structure, what capital structure is? It is the proportion of all types of capital, that is equity, debt, preference shares, owner's capital. Okay. And synonymically, if we say it is used as financial leverage or financing mix for the organization. In other words, we can say that capital structure is the degree of debt in the financing or in the capital of the business. Fine. What is financial leverage? Financial leverage is the extent to which a business employs borrowed funds or debts in its capital structure. Fine. So in the last video we have discussed that in capital structure of a company broadly there are two main sources or two main types of capital. One is equity and second is debt. And out of the two, debt is a cheaper source of finance because of the rate of interest will be less than the cost of equity, and the interest payments, they are tax deductible expenses. So capital structure of financial leverage, it deals with very important financial management question, that is what should be the ratio of debt, what should be the ratio in the capital structure. Okay. And one more thing to revise, that the objective of any financial decision, like I am talking about capital structure decision here, so objective of any of the financial management decision is to maximize shareholders wealth or increase the value of the firm. Fine. So again, financial management, again capital structure decisions, they are related to the maximization of shareholders wealth or maximizing the value of the shareholders. Okay, before we start, before we come to the capital structure theories, assumption and other part, one thing I would like to add on, that how financial leverage can affect the value. This we actually studied in the last last class, and what we studied was how leverage affects the value. There was a formula which was written there in the slide. I'm coming to that formula. That value of the firm, it depends, value of the firm is directly proportional to the earnings and inversely proportional to the weighted average cost of capital. Okay, so financial leverage, it can at max have impact on the net income, that is the earnings or earning per share of the organization. Fine. Okay. So what we'll do, we'll come directly to the capital structure theories assumption, that though we have already discussed, but I'll just read it out for you. You can see the previous video wherein these assumptions have been discussed. Like there are only two sources of funds for the organization, that is debt and equity. There's no change in the investment decisions of the firm, that is there is no change related to the total assets decision of the organization. The organization goes for 100% dividend payout ratio, that is organization does not keep any of the retained earnings with it. Every earning, every part of the earnings which are for shareholders, they are distributed as part of dividend. Then business risk of the firm is not affected by financing mix. Then there are no corporate or personal taxation in this world. And last but not the least, that the investors expect future profitability of the profitability of the firm. Okay. The very first capital, actually there are four capital structure theories. First we will focus on the net income approach. The very first theory is net income approach. What does this theory says? This theory says, yes, there is a relationship between what? Capital structure, cost of capital and value of the firm. Okay, well, you should always remember this, that net income approach says what? Yes, there's a relationship between cost of capital capital structure on the very first hand, second cost of capital, and third the value of the firm. And this approach actually this approach was given by Durand. Okay, and this approach says what? It says there's a definite relationship. I have already talked about it. Definite relationship between capital structure and value of the firm. Cost is not written, but you can write the three together because there is second point related to it. The capital structure of firm influences the cost of capital and then directly affects the value of the firm. Okay. So the theory specific assumptions we'll talk about here, that while proposing a net income approach, what assumptions did Durand take into consideration was that it firstly it assumes that a continuous increase in the debt in the capital structure does not affect the risk perception of the investors. That means owners of the organization, managers taking care of the finances, they can change the proportion of debt and equity in the capital structure, and they can increase the proportion of debt, and whatever to whatever higher level they may go for debt, it will not affect the risk perception of the investors. Again, one thing we need to remember here is that we are talking about assumptions which Durand has taken due while proposing the net income approach. It should be remembered that these assumptions may be right, may be wrong, but here we are just discussing the assumptions given by Durand. You need not to say, "Ma'am, see, this assumption is wrong, and this does not affect increase in debt. Obviously, increases the risk perception of the shareholders." It may be right, but right now, what we are doing, we are just discussing the assumptions taken by Durand. Okay. So, second assumption of Durand is that the cost of debt is less than the cost of equity. Cost of debt is represented by KD and cost of equity is represented by K. So, how we can represent it? KD is less than cost of equity. Then the third assumption is the corporate income tax, it does not increase. Okay, coming to the theory now. So as per net income approach, what it is there is that the higher use of debt will result in the reduction of WACC. Why higher use of debt will result in reduction in WACC? Because debt is a cheaper source of finance, and when the proportion of cheaper source of finance, that is proportion of debt is in the capital structure, there will be a reduction in the WACC, and as a result of it, the value of the firm will increase. How value of firm will increase? We understand that when this denominator, that is WACC, will decrease, obviously the value of firm will increase. Okay, here earnings or EBIT, earning before interest and tax, it is constant. So WACC is reduced, and as the WACC is reduced, the value of firm will increase. Thus, as per a net income approach, a firm will have maximum value at a point where WACC is minimum. That is when the firm is almost debt financed. When WACC is minimum, the value of firm will be maximum. And how can WACC be minimum? When the proportion of equity is almost zero and the complete proportion is of debt capital structure. Okay, so it says it believes that the market analyzes the firm as a whole and discounts at a particular rate which has no relation to the debt equity ratio. That is, here we should understand it in simple words. That is, as the proportion of cheaper source of finance in the capital structure increases, the value of firm also increases as WACC get reduced. We'll talk about the representation of uh, net income approach graphically. Here we can see in the graph on x-axis we have the proportion of debt, and on y-axis we have cost. So on cost part, KD is represented at this point and K is represented at this point. K is represented at lower point because cost of debt is less than cost of equity. So what we understand is that as the proportion of debt increases, what happens, KO, that is the total cost. Suppose at this point of time the firm is totally equity finance. So KO will be equals to KE. So as the proportion of debt increases, this line, focus on the cursor moving, this line, it is sloping towards downside. That is the total cost of the firm is getting reduced, and at what point of time, if it touches the KD line, at this point the firm will be 100% debt finance, there will be zero equity, and at that point of time the total cost will be equal to cost of debt only. Okay, so as the proportion of KD increases, the WACC reduces, which can be seen through the sloping KO line sloping towards downside. Okay, so this is the net income approach. It was suggested by Durand. This company was David Durand, and in the year 1952, it was suggested by Durand. Fine. So we'll come to the next theory, and this theory is called as net operating income theory. And how do I ask students to remember net operating income theory? That in the name itself there is a word no, NO. So what does it mean? It means that there is no relationship between what? Capital structure, cost of capital, and the value of the firm. Okay, there is no relationship between capital structure, cost of capital, and value of the firm. So net operating income approach, it is exactly opposite to net net income approach. Okay, in other words, whatever I have spoken right now, it can be quoted as that the value of firm does not depend on its capital structure. Okay, now we'll study some assumptions which are theory specific, that is they are related to the net operating income approach. Okay, first assumption is WACC is constant and it depends on the business risk. Okay, the very first assumption uh, uh, taken by this approach is what? That WACC for organization is constant and it does not depend upon the capital. It depends on the business risk. So WACC is constant, yani whatever be the proportion of debt, whatever be the proportion of equity, ultimately WACC will remains constant. Okay, fine. Let's move further, and it depends upon businesses. On businesses means if business risk is more, maybe the WACC may be at higher side, and if WACC is if business risk is less, the WACC is going to be WACC is going to be less. Okay, then the second assumption is that the value is calculated by using the overall cost of capital, that is WACC only. So here the value of firm out is related, it is related to WACC only, and that means the earnings have no role in deciding about what? In deciding about the relationship between value and WACC. Then the third thing which is there is, the third thing says that the cost of debt is constant. The cost of debt is constant, that means what? The cost of debt remains constant at whatever level of debt you take. Okay, whatever debt you take means what? It means that with level of debt the cost of debt will not vary. Okay, with the level of debt the cost of debt is not going to vary. Again, we should remember that this is just an assumption. Okay, then corporate income tax does not exist. What does it mean? Corporate income taxes does not exist. Again, the same assumption which net income uh, which net income approach took into consideration was that the corporate it is similar to net income approach, that the corporate income tax does not exist. Okay, then we come to the proposition, that is what does this school of thought says. Okay, so let's see what this school of thought says. We'll understand it. The use of higher debt component in the capital structure increases the risk of shareholders. Okay, as the organization goes on taking more and more debt, or increases the proportion of debt in the capital structure, the risk of shareholders, the risk perception of the shareholders increases. And as the risk perception of shareholders increases, they start demanding more returns. That is, as the risk of shareholder increases, it causes the equity capitalization rate, that is the cost of equity, to go on the higher side. Then a higher cost of equity, that is when you are increasing the proportion of debt. Okay, so a higher proportion, increase in the proportion of debt will result in higher. So the higher K nullifies the advantage which is gained due to the cost of debt. Okay, how just I'm just writing here how it can be explained is like WACC, we understand is equals to proportion of debt into cost of debt plus proportion of equity into cost of equity. Okay, so let us see what does it mean. So if the proportion of debt increases, I'm talking about PD component, the cost of equity will increase. So debt being the cheaper source of finance, we thought that if we are increasing the cheaper proportion, the overall cost will decrease. No, by increasing this proportion, what you are doing, you are increasing this the cost of, and ultimately the gains due to increase in the cheaper part gets nullified because of the increase in the cost of equity. So in other words, whatever proportion you have, whatever financing mix you have, it is irrelevant. It does not affect the value of the firm because ultimately WACC will remain the constant. If you are increasing cheaper sources, you are decreasing this proportion, but you are increasing this proportion. Okay, so ultimately decrease in this and increase in this will get nullified. Okay, how graphically we can explain this? Graphically, we can explain that if we take debt on this x-axis and cost on this y-axis, again this is cost of debt, because debt is a cheaper source of finance, and then KE is here. KO represents the total cost of equity. So as you increase the proportion of debt, you understand what that the total cost will decrease, but ultimately higher cost element gets lower cost element of KD gets nullified by increase in K. So ultimately your KO will remain the constant. Okay, so cost of capital, that is total cost of capital, remains constant as the proportion of debt increases. Okay, there is an increase in KE as well. So ultimately there is no effect of cost of capital. Okay, then we come to the third theory, that is Modigliani and Miller approach. And Modigliani and Miller approach, they started with the support for NOI approach, net operating income approach. Okay, which says what? Which says that the capital structure, that is the debt equity mix, it has no effect on the value of the firm. And what justification they gave? They gave a behavioral justification in favor of net operating income approach. Let us understand the assumptions related to Modigliani and Miller approach. First, they assume that the capital markets are perfect. That means the information flow, there is an information transparency. All investors, everyone, they are having equal information. The owners, the investors, the probable investors, everyone is having uh, the same information about the organization. Okay, and investors, they are free to buy and sell or switch between the securities. That means point of time they may buy a share, they may sell a share, like that. And even switch between the securities mean for one company share they for one company share they can buy, and another company share they may sell. Okay, and securities, they are infinitely divisible. And again, the second assumption is like investors, they can borrow without restriction and at par with the firms. Like banks or financial institution, they will not give priority to the firms or to the business first for like loans, etc. So what we understand is investors, they can buy at par with the firms. And then the third assumption is that the investors, they are rational and informed of the risk and return of the securities. That means every investor who is buying or selling share knows the in and outs, knows the risk associated with the purchase of a particular security, and as well as the returns associated with it. They are rational. That means they use mind while buying and selling any kind of security. And the other assumption is that there are no corporate income taxes are not into picture, and there are no transaction cost, that is mediation cost, or buying and selling or any other kind of transaction, it has no cost. Then one another assumption, and maybe the last one, it is that the 100% dividend payout ratio exists. That means there is no retention of profits. Okay, so coming to the proposition of Modi, Gilani and Miller, and it says what? It says that the value depends upon the capital structure, or in other word, value of the firm is equals to the capitalized value of operating income by appropriate rate. That means what? Ultimately, it means this only, that the value of the firm, I'm writing here, value of the firms equals to the EBIT divided by WACC. Okay, so uh, value of the firm, it depends on what? Okay, value of the firms depends upon it is equals to EBIT and WACC. So again, the value can also be written in form of market value of equity plus market value of debt. So uh, value can also be written in terms of expected EBIT upon expected WACC. Okay. So as per or Modigliani hypothesis or proposition, identical firms means the firms do the same business, will have almost same levels of earning. Okay. So as per Modigliani and Miller, the market value of the identical firms are different. If they're firm A and if they're firm B, they are into same business and their market value is different. So arbitrage process will take place. And what does it mean? Arbitrage process will take place. It means that investor will switch off their securities between identical firm, that is from levered to unlevered firm, till the time both of them receive the same not both of them, sorry, the investor receives the same returns. Okay. And then there is another version of Modigliani and Miller hypothesis, wherein the assumptions related to corporate income tax, it was not taken into consideration. And what happened was, with no with they acknowledged the presence of corporate income taxes, and they came up with a different proposition. And that proposition is what? That proposition is that with corporate taxes, acknowledge the corporate tax saving from the interest tax deduction. That is, if one invest in what do you call, if one invest in the debt, that is, if one goes for more debt in the capital structure, they'll have the benefits of the taxes there. And then thus Modigliani and Miller, they concludes what? That the changes in the debt equity ratio will affect WACC. So greater portion of debt lowers down the company's WACC. So starting with no relation, they ended with what they ended with the point that there is a relationship. Okay. So, and then there is a fourth approach, which is also called as traditional approach. And what does traditional approach says? As NA approach and NOI approach, they are the extreme approaches. Okay, they hold extreme views like of relationship or of no relationship between the capital structure, cost of capital, and value of the firm. So, a traditional approach is an intermediate approach or a way between the two extreme approaches, and a traditional approach confirms the existence of optimal capital structure. Very important point talked about the optimal capital structure, that uh, WACC, optimal capital structure is a point where WACC's minimum and the value of the firm is maximum. So, as per traditional approach, the possible mix of debt and equity will maximize the value of the firm. Okay, so value of the firm will be maximum when it will be maximum uh, when there is optimal capital structure. Optimal capital structure means what? An optimal mix of debt and equity. Okay. So traditional approach actually it works in three stages. Value of the firm increases with increase in the borrowing, and as a result WACC reduces gradually as you go for more debt in your capital structure. Debt is a cheaper source of finance, so with more of debt the value will increase, but it will increase up to a certain point of time, and after this certain point of time your WACC will stop increasing if you add more debt to your capital structure. So further increase in borrowing will not have any effect on WACC, and hence if it is not having any effect on WACC, the value of the firm will also stop further. So if we increase the debt beyond this point, what will happen? The shareholders' risk perception will increase, and hence it will result into increase in cost of equity as well. So uh, if you increase the proportion of debt beyond this point, the cost of equity will also increase, and cost of equity will increase. Another thing, KD will also rise. Why KD will also rise? Your cost of debt will also rise, because as as you increase more debt proportion in your capital structure, the cost of debt financing will increase, and because of that ultimately WACC will increase and the value of the firm it will start decreasing. uh, it can be represented through this graph. If debt on x-axis, cost on y-axis, KD point, KE point. So we see that with the we are increasing debt by this x-axis. So with the increase in debt up till a certain point of time, your total cost, this is the graph for total cost, that graph for total cost will decrease, and up to this point, up to this point the cost will decrease, and beyond that it will be stagnant. This flattened line shows stagnancy, and the cost will not reduce further. But after a certain point of time, if you increase more debt in your capital structure, the overall cost will increase. As you see that beyond this point the cost of equity will also start rising, so ultimately the total cost will also increase. So cost of total cost we see initially it declines at a certain point. This point it settles, but after this point started increasing due to increase in cost of equity. So that is all about capital structure theory. We may sum it up as that there are four capital structure theory: net income approach, net operating income approach, Modigliani and Miller income approach, and traditional income approach. There is another theory which is called as packing order theory. Packing order theory, you may consider it in the what do you call, capital structure theories, and in some books you'll find it and in some books you'll not find it. But this packing order theory assumes how company prioritizes their financing strategies based on the path of least resistance. That means packing order, how the capital structure is packed based on the least resistance strategy. That means if financing is needed for the firm, first preferred what would be the internal financing would be the first preferred method by the organization. It will be then followed by debt, external equity as a source of financing. So capital will be first built by self finance, and then by debt, and then by equity. So this is all about capital structure theories.